If I was Miami Broward committee, right? Carnival committee. Every carnival I play the laps in, I throw on.
My point is, if you are a warrior for the art form, then you're a warrior all the time. You're not a part-time warrior. But I guess that is the thing. We're not really warriors. We're just hustlers.
I think Jules would I be on top of this.
Of what? Of getting carnival in a year? You needed artists to start saying from the end of last year.
But what about Marshall though?
I have no idea.
I would like them to add natural immunity.
Yeah, the problem.
As only the listed things in the safe zone.
Yeah, the problem with that. Whenever your research might lead you to a conclusion that is contrary to the conclusion they want, then your research is bad. When you research and say, yes, I agree with you, then you've conducted the right kind of research. And then that's great.
Yeah. It's not my work to make sure that them do have cell phone in prison. That's not my work. My work as a media practitioner is to get the news out there, get the information out there. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Obviously, I wouldn't allow somebody to come on air, when I was on air, and threaten the lives of people. Right? Views expressed in this podcast are simply the opinions of the guests and the hosts from their perspective. These opinions aren't necessarily facts, nor with the intent to defame any person or establishment. This is not legal, medical, financial, nor spiritual advice. Hey, welcome back. It's the Alternative Perspectives podcast, the app 868. Check us out on all your podcasting platforms and, of course, on YouTube as well. So, we jumping inside it again. Third episode for the year, 2022. Second, third. Not the third.
Wait.
Yeah.
The third week. So we've done one a week, right?
Yeah. So we're running hard and fast. I wanna, before we jump into it, boy, and as I was showing you on YouTube, you realize, some of you, if you're looking for the shows on YouTube, you realize YouTube kind of hiding it now, boy. They kind of pushing it down a bit, right? So you remember, feel free to use the podcasting platforms. You could play it in the background on your phone, and that kind of thing. But YouTube seems to be giving us a little battle.
Some static. Yeah. But we wouldn't be the only people. There are a lot of people complaining. Apparently, this algorithm is a hard beast to feed, or to figure out how to feed this algorithm. And not to offend. And there's also the treading on toes and the touching on the verboten items or verboten talking points. We tend to do that a lot. So, I always think that the best utility for a podcast is to keep your company while you're engaging in a long task. So, and the best way to do that is have it in audio format. Yeah.
So have it on your phone while you're on your way to work. Also, you could do it while you're doing chill, whatever. Anyhow.
Yeah.
So we jumping inside, and on that same topic with the censorship and whatnot, hopefully I want to touch a bit on that later on. Cool. So it's the third week in January. Well, a matter of fact, nearly for the end of the fourth week in January. And normally, this time of year, in Trinidad and Tobago, we whining low. Right? We spending money we don't have. We drinking more rum than we could normally handle. We partying more than we should. Right?
Well, I don't know what than we should.
You think we should?
That's probably how much you're supposed to be partying all the time.
But you ever realize? And I think that's one of the reasons people just get sick after the carnival. I think because your body just worn. Your body just worn out.
They don't dead. That's what life made for, to enjoy. So I just say, maybe not partying more than you should. Maybe you should be partying like that more often.
All right. I'm not much of a party person, so I guess we might differ there.
Right, but I know am I, but I'm just saying that for those who enjoy it, they would probably say they should be partying like that all the time.
Well, I mean, I had a point, because with all the shippiness that are going on with these carnivals and this and that, I posted something on Facebook this week. If I was Miami Broward committee, right? Carnival committee, every carnival I play the laps in, I throw on. Let's slip in. Okay,
because remember, they have no ties to any rituals. They don't have to. There's no tie to
Ash Wednesday
and Lent and
whatever.
Yeah.
So
wow, I'm gonna drink some water. Yeah.
Right. If I was Miami, they're confusing all the way down there. Yeah. Because think about it. People who would have partied for Carnival here, right? They normally spending $4,000 or $5,000 on a costume. Buy a ticket right now. Tickets to go Miami is $2,000. Return, no?
If you're vaccinated,
right?
If you're vaccinated,
right. But anyway, to get here, still can barely do anything.
No, I just saying that this could only refer to the vaccinated because nobody else could. No other adult could enter the United States,
right? And you do your thing, you do your thing. You run out there
and it's only after having stolen the patronage from all of these, as you call them, lapsing carnivals, that some of those countries might recognize maybe we should have put a greater effort into entertaining a festival, which brings us to what I think is the meat of the matter right now, because there's a lot of arguments out there. People have very strong feelings on either side of the issue about whether we should be having a carnival or not. The NCC has stated, because, for those who may not know, there was a document circulating on social media purporting to be the official list of events for the, what they call it, the Taste of Carnival.
Yeah.
However, the NCC came out and said that's not the official list, that they're working on the list. And they're supposed to be putting something out. They hope to put it out at the end of the week. But people have been talking about that list as if it's official anyway. And some people are upset, a lot of artists, a lot of promoters. You'd expect them to be upset. But also...
Because they're always upset?
Huh?
Because they're always upset?
Well, because money is what they are primarily concerned about, not necessarily festival and the enjoyment. They're just looking at the opportunity. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm not saying they're wrong to be looking for money. I'm not saying that that would be their primary concern. But I've also been hearing from would-be patrons that there is a degree of upset about the fact that we are having just a taste of Carnival, and how we could have Carnival without FET. And they feel that they could, if the government put a little bit more effort, they could have FETs.
Right. So I've been hearing that side of the coin, but I think I'm on my side, or based on the people on my social media, I'm going to say on my side. I'm not socializing much to hear what, my peers might be saying. But the people on social media, a lot of them are saying we still seeing numbers like 600 today. We had 800 cases.
Like Omicron, I small thing.
Well, the thing is,
mild disease. I just play, nah? Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's one of my points that I've been telling people. No, if majority of the cases we are seeing now in Trinidad and Tobago are Omicron cases, there you come.
No, but that's what the CMO said. He said that Omicron is now the dominant strain in Trinidad and Tobago. Okay. He said from what's the term they use when they analyze the sample? The
genometric sequencing.
Sequencing, right. From the sequencing that they've been doing, Omicron has been appearing a lot more than Delta.
Right.
So he has officially stated that.
I want figures now. I want to know, are you saying, is it 51%?
If he says dominant, then it means it's more than half.
But is it 51% or is it 75%?
Well, it wouldn't really matter, because everywhere else, even if it's 51% now, by next week it'll be 80%.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not. It's once it has surpassed Delta, then
it should push out Delta.
It should push out Delta, just like it's done everywhere else in the world. So he has come out and said that is the case. So it's we're no longer speculating as to what is the more dominant strain in Trinidad. And so it's Omicron. So don't beat up.
Right. So the thing is, if in the next 2 weeks.
Again, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
But no, why?
No, the reason why I'm saying that is because I am not in a position to tell anybody how to feel about the virus.
Oh, okay.
And you know that your critics would be very keen to point that out. He's no doctor. You can't tell him if it's good, bad.
That's fine. I take it now.
Well, listen, but I know I still don't want to give nobody medical advice. So you feel how you want to feel about COVID.
Well, but the thing is, I'm not giving you medical advice. I just say that if it is, I think we should party. And that's not medical advice, just how I feel. I feel if it's Omicron, I'm willing to chance it. I'm willing to risk it on and FET out the video me. And just now, you stick a pin in that head because that dryer get on real bad, boy.
Oh, is it dryer? Oh,
yeah, boy. So we back. I think what I'm saying, and this is not medical advice for anybody else, but based on what I've been observing and listening to, and I didn't want to use research because, man, get real deep and personal with the term research and people using the term research.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people did that. Whenever your research might lead you to a conclusion that is contrary to the conclusion they want, then your research is bad. When you research and say, yes, I agree with you, then you've conducted the right kind of research. And then that's great.
Yeah. But based on, everything I've been hearing and observing and watching and whatnot with some of the professionals and as we said in our podcast before, we're looking at about a 90% decrease in deaths. I think in Trinidad might be 80. I don't think we will get full 90 because of how ill they say our population might be. If they say 70% decrease in hospitalization, I think in Trinidad we will see something like probably 60, right? So I think I will into turn out unfit if Omicron is the major.
What I am personally willing to do is, might be considered crazy by a lot of people. So and the reason why I kept stress on the fact that I was joking is because, like I said, people would take us expressing our own opinions about what to do as you're encouraging people and you telling people to, because again, unless you agree with them, because if you were agreeing with them, then they would love the fact that you're promoting your own opinion. But when your opinion differs to theirs, then all of a sudden it becomes reckless and careless. But what I am personally willing to do, I would have been willing to party last year. I'd have been willing to party in 2020. In June of 2020. That's me.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? That's me.
Well, for me, I mean, if they say the majority, if they even hit man at 75% or 80%.
The problem with that though is that they are fearful of breeding any sort of complacence. They want people to keep, even if they feel in their own, after their own evaluations, or they're actually hopeful that this is the end game for the pandemic and it is in fact going to be, a milder disease and bring less devastation. They don't want to convey that message to the public for two reasons. One, experts and politicians are always risk averse. They don't want to say, hey, yeah, it's a cool scene. And then when it ends up not being a cool scene, they have egg on their face. And then number two, they want to keep us as, I don't want to say anxious, but as attentive as possible. And the way to do that is by drilling it into, hey, don't take this Omicron for a joke, There's no kicks thing. So I think that for them to turn the screws and begin to say, well, hey, listen, you could party because it's just Omicron all day, they will have a real hard time doing that, because they don't have that belly. They don't have that courage. They don't have that courage or conviction to say, hey, listen, we think there are risks involved, but at this point, the benefits outweigh the risks.
Okay, so my thing is, I am saying it to me, I think even if you're willing to risk it at this point, or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
Even if you decide to still do the safe zone thing for fets and parties, now I talking about fets, I ain't going to fets and party, to be real honest. I did enough of that in my life, and unless I'm making money doing that, I really have no interest in doing it, to be honest. But my thing is, if you're doing safe zones, I think right now, I would like to add people who have already gotten the disease or the virus.
Right.
Yeah, I think I would like them to add natural immunity.
Yeah, the problem.
As only the listed things in the safe zone.
Yeah, the problem with that. Because I know where you're going. Because of what was uncovered or what was published by the CDC recently.
Well, I mean,
but they're already starting to find wiggle room, That was with respect to Delta. That was proven that the people who had been infected with the original strain and the alpha strain, they did better against Delta. It said nothing about Omicron, but it was done before Omicron.
Right.
So we don't know. And then, and
then the wiggle room, no, as I say, it's wiggle room because at the end of the day, that's what they do. They play games. Because when you look at it, even though people who have had any of those strains before still contracting Omicron, it is still proven that the Omicron is even less severe for most people.
Right.
Who would have...
even unvaccinated. It is less severe for everybody, even the unvaccinated. Right. Yes. Unvaccinated or unexposed. Previously unexposed. Yes.
Right. So the thing is, hey, No, as I say, I just listen, there are few things I really like in this life. And Five Islands is one of them that way. And I really can't go Five Islands without at least my younger daughter, the bigger one.
You might be in luck because the WHO has approved Pfizer for 5 to 11 and the calls have already begun in the country.
I do think
for that to take place. In fact, I think I read today that the Ministry of Health is seeking to secure Pfizer vaccines for those between 5 and 11.
Let me be real honest with you.
Yeah.
If obviously this is not a decision I can make on my own, right? My wife definitely has to be involved in this, and she is not one who's okay with vaccinating the youth, right?
Right. Okay.
Right. So we are vaccinated. Myself, my wife, we are vaccinated. My bigger daughter is vaccinated as well, but she is not prepared to vaccinate the younger one. Now, if they were offering, or if there was a Sinopharm kiddies version, you know, I would have taken my chances with that, boy.
I find it very, very strange that it seems to be only not just the RNA, mRNA vaccines, but specifically Pfizer that has been looking, because I don't want to think that the other vaccines are unsafe, right? I don't think that they've been tested and found to be unsafe for children. I think it's only Pfizer that has been conducting the necessary tests to push for approval for that age. And I'm wondering, but why is that?
Because the thing is, as I say, you mightn't say it's because I would think everybody would want a piece of the pie, dog. Let me be real. So everybody would, if you had to make a children's vision, let me try and make a children's vision to get a piece of the pie.
Well, but
I don't know what's going on.
Why is nobody
didn't hear
else?
Anything.
Exactly. I'm pretty certain if it is that the other vaccines, they have been tested, they have conducted the requisite testing to make sure that it is to test to see if it's safe for children, and it came up one thing and it was like, no, the rest of them, we ain't too sure about that on children. I think you'd have heard that. I think you'd have heard if
Moderna,
Novavax, or Moderna, you are hearing about. There are countries that have said they don't recommend it for people under a certain age, men especially, males under a certain age. So you've heard a little bit about that, and I don't know about testing with children, but you'd probably get scared because if it given if you feel it might be giving young adult males problems, you probably wouldn't want to test it in younger people. But what about the non-mRNA vaccines? The Novavax, the Sinopharms, there's another Chinese one that I believe is a inactivated
because
vaccine.
it has Sinovac too. It has Sinopharm or Sinovac.
Yeah, something like that. And then we don't hear anything about the Cuban one in the Western world at all.
Well, the thing is, I've heard people say that the Cuban one would be good for children as well, but of course that's not coming out to everybody.
Right, yeah, I've heard it could theoretically be a better vaccine because it's not just isolating like the spike protein as what needs to be neutralized. It's focusing because there are other elements of the virus that could mutate. So it's focusing its attention on neutralizing some other element that involves a broader spectrum. So for that, I don't know how true that is. I just would have been hearing, but I don't know if Cuba is not exporting it or they're only exporting it to countries that they're friendly with.
And that's one. And then two, let me be real, because you still need people in those countries to accept it. And if you have the geopolitics playing.
True, but I mean, at this stage, Joe Biden is president of the United States. How would the United States look? He's supposedly supposed to be one for reconciliation. He's talked about bringing Cuba back into the fold and not taking the same tone that Donald Trump took and whatever. So how would the US look now trying to stymie countries receiving the vaccine from Cuba? How would they look I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm simply saying, well, if that is the case, blow the whistle on that because that looks awful. You know, I thought we were... I'm
not going to say what you're posing, what question they're posing to Joe Biden now, boy, because anyway, call it a jackass now, boy, dog.
Or a son of a bitch.
A son of a bitch or whatever.
A stupid son of a bitch.
He had got somebody a jackass at some point or something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, it is. I think if that is the case, then we should be making a very big scene about that, because the United States is supposed to be a completely different country now. That's not is trying to be, to repair America's image around the world and to be much more inclusive. And, how if Cuba wants to stretch a helping hand to neighboring nations, why would you be forcing your companies' vaccines down the throats of other countries? Why would you be stymieing that? Because let's be honest, how many people have you heard say that they would be much more willing to trust the vaccine coming from Cuba?
A few. I've really heard a few. Yeah.
Because the idea is it's not being made by some large pharmaceutical company that's trying to make billions of dollars.
Right.
And, what I mean?
It's made by people who do this for the love of it, rather than,
in theory, yes.
Yeah, rather than financial gain.
Precisely. And, they just generally would feel more comfortable doing that. So if you want to tackle vaccine hesitancy, that would be a good, I am still confused as to why Trinidad and Tobago has not been speaking about securing the Novavax, or, well, I think when it comes from India, it's called Covaxin. They just mentioned that it was added to the list of approved vaccines by the WHO. I think they did a press conference about it, but no mention about whether or not Trinidad will be seeking to secure doses of it.
No, but to be fair, I mean, I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think the people in charge here and on any Ministry of Health or the Minister of Health, I don't think they are separating or watching the vaccines differently, if you understand what I'm saying. I think they as far as they're concerned, vaccine is vaccine, or they take vaccine. Well,
yeah, but I mean, if they were, I'm sure that they know that people have a problem with the idea of the mRNA and adenovirus technology, right? So that would cover the AstraZeneca and the Moderna and Pfizer, right? They have expressed some trepidation because it's fairly new technology when applied to vaccines.
But I don't think they'll care. I don't think they care.
No, I don't think I don't think it's not that they don't care. I think that I don't know what was part and parcel of the deal that they cut in order to secure vaccines for Trinidad and Tobago. And I think that might be the more, because listen, I'm not saying that they're the brightest bulbs in the box or whatever, but what I do think is that if they were able to secure that, and I don't necessarily mean to bargain and go and pay top dollar, but if they were able to secure that from, what is the name of the body that's been trying to secure vaccines, is set up to secure vaccine equity across the world, COVAX.
Yeah.
Right. If they were to secure it through that, they would be, and the first thing they would say would be, when they're having a press conference, well, there have been people saying that the only reason they ain't taking it is because they want a different version of an inactivated virus. And yes, we have the Sinopharm, but they don't. So now you have more options if you don't want to take the new mRNA technology. So they should help to reduce vaccine hesitancy.
So what I want you all the viewers and listeners to do, you can check us out on Twitter. The app, at the app 868, and who on YouTube and whatnot.
We have a Twitter account.
Yeah, that's a sort of Twitter.
Big man, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but I try not to. Yeah, because Twitter is.
Yeah.
But what you can do, if you think if you're not vaccinated and might be interested, would you take the Cuban vaccine, or even if you had to get a booster, would you take the booster as a Cuban booster? Comment down below and let us know.
Yeah, I think if they were to do things like that, it would lessen the hesitancy on the part of many people in this country, the people who buy into the idea that it might be not necessarily a conspiracy to make people to sterilize people.
All kind of weird conspiracies.
Right. But there's the sterilized people, there's the kill off half the world's population people, right? Cool. There are some of them who don't buy into that, but they do believe, or they do not trust the big pharma companies. They don't believe that they would necessarily put their health before their profits. And they would be quite pleased to hear that the government is interested in securing vaccines from Cuba, where the understanding or the belief would be that this is just being done to save lives.
Right, so definitely comment below, let us know, and hopefully the right people see it and they might say, Cuba sent at 10,000, like we tried out.
Well, we had to find out more. It may be that Cuba isn't manufacturing enough to export. It may very well be that, or they probably only exporting. You know, because Cuba has its friends.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, we're supposed to be on that. We're supposed to be on that
they're
friend
real
list.
friends. They're friends in from a political ideology standpoint. The communist nations across the world.
Okay.
They're real friends, right?
I think we are on the real friends. You don't think we kind of have a communist nation?
That is an argument to be had at some point. But I don't know if that is the situation going on there. And again, I'm only speculating here, so don't say that I said that's the situation. But if that is the case, then maybe we don't have access to it. But I'd like to find out if that is the case. But I want to come back to the carnival thing. Do you think the promoters, how you feel about promoters and artists clamoring for not patrons? Patrons wanted to free up and like this or whatever is one thing. But how you feel about the entertainers and the promoters getting this voice all of a sudden about Carnival and the lack of Carnival? You know, I see a post from Lyrical saying, we need Carnival. I suspect it's for more than just the enjoyment, right? So,
well, the thing is,
how you feel about that?
Because I mean, Lyrical is a good friend. I don't think you should call him, right?
I don't know. I maybe we should have done that before.
Yeah, boy, you give him a little heads up.
Yeah.
The thing is, I could understand why some people want it. At the end of the day, you could have whatever carnival, wherever else in the world. But I think a lot of people really look forward to Trinidad Carnival. For whatever, I think that is where the sweetness is for a lot of people. So, the thing, most of the artists, especially who you see campaigning, if you want to put it like that, they would have flown and made some money
but not real money. Not the money that normally
because I think the people who I would have loved to hear from is people with small, like the people who are the bars and the you know them who set up them bar on the avenue and set up them bar on Savannah.
Well, I mean, nobody want to hear from them because I mean that's the grounds, man, and them complaining a long time. They are the same people who have been, you know, saying, listen, we're not getting these checks or they claim or they're sending out and nothing and not.
But for me, I would have liked to hear from them because I think they would have been the people who would have been losing out the most now.
Right. Yeah.
As I say, most of the artists, not all of course, but most of the artists would have had the opportunity to go Miami. To go Miami.
And that's not most, that's the thing. I think it's a small percentage because now remember, it's only big. Okay, so in a normal year, a man who don't normally touch outside might have a tune that bus, and he would have joined the caravan, right?
From here, why dog?
Well, that might have been cutting down over the years, but they would have been an artist from Trinidad who would have had a tune that artist or two or three who would have had a good year, and they would have been able to squeeze themselves into that mold. I think in here, like people like Akil and people like Orlando Octave, who aren't, you wouldn't say they're staples. It's not like every time a fete bus, every time they have a carnival season, that them is must books. But if they have a good year in Trinidad Carnival this year, or they have a big tune, they would touch outside. But then there's the people who would touch outside whether the tune good or not, because their name real big.
Right.
So, but those others, the smaller artists who, if they had a real sting in here this year, they would have been all over. They're not getting very many opportunities. You understand? And there's that second tier of artists.
Well, that's not the ones I seen campaigning. The ones I seen campaigning is the ones who are flying. The ones who are there.
Well, true. That's but I think the others might be campaignning, just not seeing them because they're not
popular enough.
They're not. Well, they're not say popular. Oh God,
popular enough. That's popular enough.
You had to be crass, dog. Just say the profile not as big as.
Oh, okay.
Right, put it that way, right?
All right.
Right. Don't go. Massage people ego a little bit. So they. Maybe they're doing it too, but you're just insane. But the reason why I'm asking how you feel about it is because I am particularly upset that, first of all, it has taken us this long for the artists to open up about. Now, I understand everybody free to get pelted with big stone and So you pushing your head above the parapet and talking about carnival when people are frightened. You're afraid they launch the catapult behind you, right? I understand that. But these people are supposed leaders come every year and claim to be diehard, fans of the culture, the art form that is soca and the culture, not just hustlers, not just people who want $1, who want to get booking fed so they can make a little money. They claim to be diehard, lovers of the art form. And it take you 2 years to speak up, 2 years to say, hey, come now, we can't do nothing at all, That don't sit well with me at all, That don't sit well with me at all.
To be fair, I think, this is let me say, late last year is when a lot of Trinidadians were like, all right, you see, this COVID thing, we fed up. We ain't fighting up again, we meeting up, we willing to take more chances. And I think when they realized that they had the support of the majority, because let's be real, would it have made sense for you to come out and say, no, let me do a thing and let me have a carnival, and the masses don't want it?
Yes, it would have made, you would not get it, but I would have seen, that's what I'm saying. I am upset because you take this long, because you could have been more courageous and said, listen, I know I'll get big stone for this, but the culture important. The culture, where were the arguments that the culture is as important or as essential as many of the things we have going on?
Listen, I understand what you're saying, but I think most people try to fight fights that they think they could win. Or most people could try to fight fights that they think they have support to fight. All right, let me give it, this might be a bit of a stretch, right? But in Trinidad, young girls go missing every day.
Yeah.
We have, but you would find when a young girl who might be a little popular or look a particular way or whatever the case may be, you would find that
different hair texture and skin tone.
You would find that more people posting it because it's the cooler thing, or more people on that train, so more people would post it. Right. So it's the same thing with the carnival thing. I think if it's not the popular thing, a lot of Trinidadians not going to take the chance. They're not going on.
Well, you're giving me the explanation. I understand that. I know that's why. What I'm saying is, but then these are the same people, like I say, who claim to be. In fact, as a matter of fact,
but they would say though, I love the culture. I went outside with it. I still get to do my thing and push the culture outside.
My thing is, where were the arguments to bring it into the mix? In other words, in the throes of the pandemic, the early stages of the pandemic, I could very much understand everybody just being like, hey, let me just cool it, right? But as time goes by, for instance, there have always been people arguing for reopening schools. Always. People have been saying for the longest while, this is what we're doing to these children is awful and we need to address it. Nobody was taking them on. They was taking big stone for it. They haven't been successful. But they've been making it clear that they've been bringing to the fore. They didn't just sit down and shut up and say, well, but I think people ain't want to hear that right now. So because why? They love the children or they care about school. Where were the rebels for the culture? Bungie sang a song for last year Carnival, I think was, I can't remember the name right now, but the lyrics, essentially asking people to pay attention to the people who you feel Carnival is just about dance, wine and jam and people could just do without that for a year. But in the song, he was, trying to bring the reality that, hey, this is something that a lot of people, now he wasn't saying, so like we have Carnival, but he was simply saying, hey, this is not just about wine and jam. There are people who make their livelihoods off of this. This is something that's serious. Let me pay some attention to them. Let me pay some mind to them. And let me start a discussion. The song didn't lead to a discussion. But my point is, if you're a warrior for the art form, then you're a warrior all the time. You're not a part-time warrior. But I guess that is the thing. We're not really warriors. We're just hustlers. And now the money running dry. And so now we're like, yeah, come now. And some of them get a taste of Miami and they come back and go, oh boy, we could really do that again. And all of a sudden, everybody have a voice now and talking.
But when you check it, Soca Warriors is just really not a good thing. They don't really beat nothing. They don't accomplish much. So they realize that's Soca Warrior. Yeah, forget that. I understand what you're saying, but the thing is, as I say, boy, Trinidad, that is not Trinidad's nature, boy. Chinese do have a rebellious nature. Chinese do, I mean...
No, but I just point out here, people who wanted school open...
Yeah, but they didn't really rebel.
But that's what I'm saying now. I'm not saying that they should have... I'm not talking about like how Grenadians come out and had the 4-day morning jam. Well, they don't call it, just jubilee, right?
The jab, yeah.
Yeah, the jab in despite whatever restrictions was in place. And I'm even talking about... I'm speaking about people simply... using their voice to say, hey.
But most of the time, they don't use their voice. They only use their voice when the situation is popular.
Right.
And that's reality. So that's just not Trinidadians' nature. Trinidadians' nature.
You keep saying Trinidadians. I think that's not the artist nature. Okay. Because like I just said, I just pointed out that there have been people who, look how many throughout this pandemic, they've had a lot of people who've been upset with the way the government has been handled. And I'm not just talking about the
political thing.
Yeah, the political, the rising sun bandwagon I'm talking about. I talking about people who, and just come on, and just go on Facebook, and just talk, and just get licks, just get, people, I mean, I don't go on Facebook and do it, but, we do that. We've been, criticizing what we feel needs to be critiqued and so on. So it's not a Trinidadian thing. There are people who have voiced their upset about, look at the bar owners association. They were clamoring. They never stopped clamoring.
True.
So my thing is, where was that for the culture? Where was that? Everybody, for the culture, it's like, well,
they probably do have a proper association.
Maybe. I don't think that's what it is, though. I think, as I say, it's not really warriors for culture. It's hustlers. And,
it's warriors for pocket.
Right, it's hustlers, and it's only when it started to really bite their pockets now that all of a sudden they get a voice and they want to know about this and that, and so it really leaving a real bitter taste in my mouth, boy. The way this thing going down.
I understand. I waiting to see how everything unfolds. I'm watching, because even the great music that coming out. I believe this is how I think soca music should be handled, right? I think artists should be releasing music all through the year, normal soca, and then it comes closer to the festival. You start to drop the festival
the music start to get more festival-y.
Yeah, right? You drop the faster BPMs, the more up-tempo songs, whatnot, right?
The song with fat themes.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I think that is how we should be dealing with soca. And I think we do even have a proper setup or just regular groovy soca. You understand?
I think the problem is the reason why that is because and this will go in a whole different direction, because it had to do with the development of the music in this country and how central it's been to the festival of Carnival. I think that people have a very hard time, musicians have a very hard time expressing anything but a party vibe with the elements of soca, the musical elements of soca. I don't know if it's because they don't have a reference point. They haven't heard enough music where with that you could qualify as soca that has a different theme. Bungie just try a thing, but
I think Irfan is a master at that right now.
Okay, like Special to me is a good example, right? That's not a carnival song. That had nothing to do with fete. It is a love song. But you still can't think of it outside of that is not something you feel you could turn on your radio and listen to and vibes without either feeling a carnival tabanka or feeling like it's missing something, because I'm not blaming the artist for this, because to be fair to him, it is just a song. It's just it doesn't, I don't think any part of the lyrics have to relate to carnival. If I remember properly, the video was just like a love song video.
But the thing is,
we just not accustomed to hearing love songs like that.
Nah, boy, that song is heavily requested in like weddings and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know, but how many? But if it was hitting as an outside of carnival song in the way that Trinidad music touch it does, then it would have done that. It would have done that. They wouldn't. I don't know, I'm no disrespect to the fans, but I sure if you go on YouTube and find the whatever version of that song with the highest view count, a Trinidad average tune running past that. Running past it. Well, maybe not average tune, but plenty Trinidad tunes running past that. And why is that? Why is the music not connect? Why can't somebody turn on, just like how they will listen to whatever R&B love song at any point in time, in any mood? Why they can't do that?
Well, alright, so I understand what you're saying. Probably people could relate to killing each other in this country more than, or around the world more than they could relate to love soca. I don't know. But I don't want to go too much into that music thing right now. I mean,
that is a whole different. That could be a whole topic on its own. A whole podcast. We could dedicate a whole podcast to that.
So, but the thing is, I think a lot of the artists and all, they weren't really prepared for the season either. I think they kind of counted it out. I think the conversations came up later and then they were like, hey,
we don't really have a carnival season. You know? Like, stop pretending that this thing is a carnival season. Because they didn't get a carnival season.
No, when I say prepare every season, I just mean the timing. You understand what I'm saying? Not necessarily specifically a season.
Right.
From December to March in the situation, early March. I don't think they prepared for this timing. I do think they were like, hey.
Because they didn't think they would have a carnival. Yeah. And what is the point of spending my money and linking with the producer and looking for that hit tune? And where go? Where will it go? How far will it go? You know what I mean? And worse yet, if we have a monster at this time.
Yeah, boy.
And then...
You hear the Take Bamboo Girl song?
Yeah.
That song is that monster.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm feeling real sorry for that man.
Yeah, exactly. That Redneck fella from Grenada too, with the tune last year. That in a year with Spice Mass.
Yeah, I feel sorry for them fellas and them because I'm like a waste of tune, you know, boy.
And why you think, what you feel the artist thinking, are gonna hold it back. Even if they have the idea, even if they have...
Well, I mean, I understand, but I feel it for that man because a youth man here hit scene and all that. And for it to come out the year and it had nothing. You can't eat that proper food.
You can't, and by the time we could eat food, well, hopefully for him, I still believe we will be close to back to normal by the middle of the year. So, and I think maybe we will try to have a proper carnival around that time. Or we'll have things like carnival. Even if we don't call it carnival, we'll have a season. We'll have a season of fetting, you know what I mean?
If them punk and them didn't try to rub, or didn't try, if they didn't rub Jules would have been on top of this, boy. I think Jules would have been on top of this.
Of what? Of getting carnival in a
year? Yeah, I think so. I think he would have led the army, boy.
Well, boy, I don't know. I think you need more than he. Yes, I think you needed artists to speak up a lot earlier. You needed artists to start saying from the end of last year.
But what about Marshall though?
I have no idea. Again, and again, this is easy. He is the king of soca, right? There are all kind of people who want to argue with that, but let me call him, for sake of this discussion, the king of soca. Where's the king of soca been?
Yeah, boy.
At this point, where has his voice would have plenty weight? You know what I mean?
They can have more weight to the yellow people, but.
No, I'm talking about with the people who have to make decisions. Yeah.
Well, I think it will have more weight if UNC is in power.
I think if UNC is in those guys mean by the yellow people.
I wasn't being very racist though.
Wow, I just went straight by like, no. Let me not ask him for clarification. Let me just act like he ain't say it.
Right? Yeah. But I think if UNC is in power and I should say, Kamala. You understand?
I don't know. It might have
suffering. I think.
And I mean, listen, my thing is not even about suffering and money and thing. It's simply to emphasize that the culture is essential. Just like how we fight to keep the bank open and we fight to keep the grocery open. Where was the argument for culture being essential? I'm not saying you would have win. I'm not saying you would have win the argument because I hear all the counter argument. But that is supposed to be your thing. Just like everybody have their team to represent. And you have to keep your team out there. Like if you had to take Big Stone for that, well, you could say what you want to me by telling you culture is essential. And let me find a way to do it. Just like people have been making arguments about the kids. And well, as we say that I wanted to just mention this with respect to the new the announcement that more children going back out to school on February 7th, right? The Ministry of Health, I think I had saved the article. They right, yeah, I have it here. article entitled Ministry of Health fully supports return to classes, right? This is from the Trinidad Guardian. Physical classes will resume for Standard 5 to Form 3 students come February 7th. But while some parents aren't comfortable with the move, the Ministry of Health is in full support. Speaking during Wednesday's virtual media conference, Minister of Health Terence Deyalsingh said the risks associated with the return are outweighed by the benefits to students. We at the Ministry of Health fully support and fully endorse the position that children who are gradually being reintroduced to physical classrooms is a very wise move. Children who are... Alright, that doesn't make no sense. But anyway, whatever risks there are far outweighed by the benefits to children, the benefits to their parents, the benefits to their socialization, their access to nutrition, their access to meeting friends. You have some children for 2 years now who don't know who their peers are in school. And in school, that is not a good thing. Everything the minister there said there just now is 100% correct, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I co-sign everything he just said. But you know what? It was true and correct last year. Mm-hmm. And it was true and correct the year before that. Mm-hmm. The risks, the benefits always far outweighed the risks of sending the children to school. Always. Why wasn't it done then before?
Okay, I think for him, it is my opinion on what they're thinking. I think one, they would say, they would argue that they have a better understanding of the virus. Two, I think they would say they have
okay, right, cool.
Right?
I know you're saying what they would say.
Right? I think they would say that we have some degree of vaccination amongst the children. Mm-hmm. But I also think the reason they're not letting all the children go back out in February is because they're planning to start vaccinating.
Try to joke 5 to 11.
The 5 to 11. Yeah. And see if they can get the 5 to 11.
Yeah. I know that's going to be the rationale they'll provide. But what I'm saying is, I know that's what they will say. But that still doesn't mean that the risks weren't outweighed by the benefits all the time.
Well, yeah, let me tell you, is my issue there, right? The information they have now, and the information they had when they were acting like if the children go to school, they'll die. Mm-hmm. It haven't changed much.
In fact, it's gotten worse. We have more we have more transmissible strains. The Delta was a more transmissible strain than the Alpha and than the original, right? And now the Omicron is even more transmissible than all of them, right? So we are now dealing with more easily transmissible versions of the virus.
And to be fair, also the Omicron apparently attaches itself easier with children.
Right. So one could argue that it is actually a more dangerous situation. Mm-hmm. In, let's say, September of 2020, we had we had an election period where they didn't think it was wise to curtail the behavior of the campaigners. They didn't think it was they didn't even want to contemplate not having the election at that time, putting the election off, right? They didn't even want to contemplate because the election was essential, essentially. You know, it's a constitutional, it's constitutionally required and they were not doing that, right? And they didn't have a lot of interest in making sure that the people behind the trucks were socially distanced, right? They didn't have any problem with that. When there were celebrations taking place after, they didn't seem concerned with that. But then they became concerned once that time had passed and they instituted whatever. But had they put off the election and instead opened the schools in September, we don't even know if we would have had a spike we might have had a spike that would have, just like we had a spike because of the election period, right? But was it on anybody's mind to open schools back then when we were not dealing with 1,000 cases a day and 20 something deaths a day? We weren't considering it then. But now we're dealing with that. We're dealing with record numbers of cases. We had a record number of cases the other day. 2 days in a row. We just beat the record. We set the record and beat it again. But now the benefits outweigh the risks. But the risks to me have increased.
Well, I think they would argue, because Dr. Rowley said that in the last major press conference thing he had, where he said, you know, the professionals are telling him that the negative effect it's having on, or it would have on the children.
But
But I guess they would say it took them 2 years. That says that.
The reality is that is garbage, right? And that's what they will say in their defense, because they're going to have to put up a defense. But the reality is that it is these are not, people think these are scientific decisions. These are political decisions. Mm-hmm. These decisions are being made because with a lot of different things in mind, not just the science at play, how we go look, what people want to hear now. People open to this, or they want to. So they've delayed the children going back to school until it's almost reached the point where it's untenable, right? But at any point in time, they could have made the decision to make school important and say, hey, this thing has to happen. I don't know what's the situation in other CARICOM countries, but I don't even think in CARICOM countries schools have remained closed this long. There are very few places in the world where school has remained closed this entire period.
Right, yeah.
You understand?
They open and some cases they close it back down.
Exactly. No, and the thing is, even if, let's say, we've lost 12 months or 15 months of education, well, maybe we only needed to lose 9 or 7. That would have been better than 15. But we didn't, because at the point in time, that takes a back burner, because the optics of governing is more important than...
I understand what you're saying with the optics of governing, but I also think they were... I think they wanted to kind of stress on the vaccine campaign too.
But even before vaccines arrived, Naldo, children could have gone to school.
I know this.
Children were going to school around the world, even when vaccines weren't even a concept.
Right.
And at the point in time, we had not apprehended the amount of fear that we have now. So what I'm saying is, even if you want to say, well, you were trying to prevent what is happening now from happening, and now it happens, so there's no point in bothering. But the thing is, before we had vaccines and before any of that, we didn't have the scare that we have right now. We didn't see COVID ravage the place. So you could have said at that point in time, listen, there are risks, but they're outweighed by the benefits, keeping the children out of school for so long. That's craziness. How long have people been complaining about the number of students who have not been participating in online schooling?
Right, yeah.
That's not new information. So what they taught, like the 40-something thousand students who've just gone off the map. They thought, oh, well, if it's just a year, that'll be fine. But 2 years, nah, that's breaking the stroller, breaking the camel back.
2 years could be 3, but...
Well, I mean, 2 calendar years we're talking about, right? That could be breaking the stroller, breaking the camel's back. What shipping is it telling, man? It was bad for them in 2020. It was bad for them during 2021, just as it's bad for them now.
The thing is, I don't want to say about them on that way, because to be honest with you, I think there are a lot of games. I think and this is the hard thing I had to deal with thinking about them, right? Is it that they really don't know, or is it that they know the facts and they choose to just do what suits them? You understand? That is why I try.
I don't. The thing is, they would say that they don't know what will happen before it happens, right? And they would say that they will govern with an abundance of caution because it's people's lives they're dealing with, right? So that will be their excuse for the way they've managed the pandemic from the beginning. Even if you might say, well, okay, the fact is the disease has never ever been extremely dangerous to children. It's the risk stratification is clearly leans towards the elderly and the older folks with comorbidities more than anything else, right? Of course, it's not to say that you can't die if you're outside of those groups, but it's always leaned heavily in that direction. They've always known that, right? But they would say that, yeah, but sending the children to school, that could be a super spreader, and they will now spread the disease outside into members of the household and so on and so forth, right? So they would say that the risk that poses.
But to be fair, I mean, I've never studied these statistics in it, but it's just talking to people and I have an idea about, what's going on in other countries. Do you think that we have more extended homes here in Trinidad than in plenty of other countries, where that risk could end up being higher.
Well, not many of the other countries that have had schools open. Many African countries have not. I remember last year when I was watching.
But to be fair, let's not leave out African countries because we don't follow nothing them doing. If you understand what I'm saying.
No. If what you're saying is if if you're trying to explain the reason why they were more anxious or they had more reason to be fearful, well, they could have looked at places where I'm sure there are just as many extended families living in a household that didn't close schools and it didn't cause, death and damnation and devastation. So, or at least to a large degree. Now, they could probably fall back and say, well, those countries don't have as many people with NCDs. I guess, but did you know that from beforehand? Because I didn't hear that in the messaging before. I didn't hear, well, listen, people, don't watch Kenya and South Africa. Well, not South Africa, but don't watch Nigeria and Ghana and ask why we can't be like them. Because, hey, them people healthy, Them people just be outside in the sun. They just get a vitamin E. They don't sit down in AC whole day and eat nonsense and have diabetes. All they so all they do, no, I didn't hear that in the messaging. So now I'm hearing that when they have to explain why the death numbers are so high, now they're saying that NCDs are to blame. Because if you were aware that our situation was so dire from the beginning, then where was the messaging to get that in a gear?
And to get people healthy.
People healthy. You know what I mean? Where was that all the time? So you can't really duck from the idea that, hey, we just doing whatever convenient for us now, boy. No, nobody making a whole set of noise for trying to go to school. So let's leave them trying to, man. We could say we're doing something. We put some online education thing in place.
Because you remember the thing I was making the point earlier on with people fighting for children to go to school. As much as it had people fighting for children to go to school, you had tutors fighting to keep the children out of school to save the lives of the teachers.
True. That is true. But I mean, the state is the employer largely of most of those teachers. So the state could have wrangled with them as they're wrangling with the public service right now and all the other unions. And they want them to get a job and they put it down the foot that they had to get a job. Well, they could have put down the collective foot on and when I say, I'm not saying to force anybody to do anything, but what I'm saying is a greater effort could have been put forward, to, hey, let's get this thing going. This is an essential function of government. And therefore we need it to take place. We need to make every effort for it to take place. I understand it couldn't take place in a way that children might have always been going to school or whatever, might have been inconvenient to some extent. And I'm not saying it would have been the regular quality of education. Right, is probably poor in the first place. But something, but no effort was made until last year, October. And now, and if you're a primary school student, like yours and mine, it was 2 calendar years.
Yeah, there's going to be 2 calendar years.
2 calendar years have passed since they set foot inside of a school.
Yeah.
That's crazy, bro.
I was thinking about it the other day. Just imagine a child that was supposed to go into primary school 2 years ago. They'd probably now be going into, well, when they start back, they'll probably be finishing second year and then going into, well, it will open in April, so they would be finishing.
Guys, if it open in April, we don't know, but yeah.
I mean, I think it would. I think right now they trying to get back things on course. I think they're trying to get back to normal.
Yeah.
Right? So they'll be finishing up second year, so that means that real important part of their lives there.
They have they've begun school without being trained in the way that they would normally be to absorb information. So now they'll be older. They'll be closer to 7, 8,
which
as opposed to
coming out of that sponge phase,
right?
Yeah.
And now you're gonna sit them down in a classroom, and they can't get up and walk around. Like my son has have real problem. Just today, he get put in detention because
an online detention.
Yes, an online school. Because he kept moving from the screen, and she told him that he has to stay because they have they schedule the reading that the children do at different times a day. So everything ends at 3. But normally he would have been able to do his reading and finish by 12. But she told him, no, you have to stay here until everybody is finished reading. So he had detention on online school. But the main reason is because he has a problem. He has a lot of problems paying attention to things he doesn't want to pay attention to in general. But it's easier because the teacher isn't there and he's not being taught.
And you're at home at the end of the day. Yeah. Well, give up and go in the kitchen now. Give up and go in the kitchen.
Exactly.
If you're in school, you can't just give up and go in the yard.
You will feel weird getting up and walking out of a classroom. You understand what I'm saying? So and they were in school before that. They actually had school. It's not like they started primary school in that way. So imagine for those who haven't been in any kind of formal schooling or formal setting like that.
I even thinking about the 3-year-old who were 3 years old 2 years ago, who would have gone preschool to prepare them for
for school. And preschool was online or no preschool at all. And now they're going into probably to second year or something.
If we say second year there
craziness. And nobody shed a spared a thought for those children at all. Everybody just, I frightened. So once I frightened, everything had to shut down. Everything I don't want to do should stay closed. So the bank, did I open? I need money. Grocery, need I open? I want to go and buy things to sit at home and watch Netflix. But everything else, close it.
Well, boy, it will really and truly get very interesting in the near future with those things. Gotta go and buy a uniform. Well, I mean, you probably bought some uniform. Your little ones had to wear uniform for the online school.
Yeah, but they don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they don't. The teacher that was in the year before was more pedantic about that. But this new teacher, she's not too concerned about where we're at home. So, but now we bought uniforms for them. Just in case they were going back out to school in September last year.
Boy, dog, me not a lot of money, boy, dog, boy, because you need to buy and they didn't go.
No, we didn't stock up like buy 5 shirts, 5 pants. No. But we bought just in case they had to go, and they haven't grown much since then. So.
Boy, I would have go the day before, yes? The day before this election because... You know then the young days go fast now.
I think what happened was when we made that decision, there was money in hand.
Right.
So we said, let me do that because if they come and make the decision last minute, by that time we might be scrambling. So let me buy a little something and put it down. So they have at least one, at least one uniform, one day's uniform that they could wear to go to school. Should things open back up in April?
So, alright, so let me switch it. We touching on the CDC findings.
Well, I mean we kind of touch on it before,
but I mean, just to be a little clearer, based on the CDC findings and something they put out a few days ago, basically what they're saying is that people who would have contracted the virus seem to be having
had a much better time.
A much better time facing
Delta. From the perspective of contracting the virus or hospitalization or death.
Right?
From all aspects.
And they also did say vaccines seem to have worked as well, where the people who have contracted the disease and ended up with natural immunity was just a bit better than the people who were vaccinated. The people who were vaccinated and contracted the disease end up kind of on the same level
as people who just contracted the disease.
As people who just contracted the diseases.
But vaccinated people did much better than people who were completely unexposed.
Unvaccinated, right? Yeah. Unexposed and unvaccinated.
Yeah.
So, so that is the CDC data. Let me see what they'll do with it. Obviously, we don't follow the CDC guidelines here. We follow WHO. And do you think there's some degree of politics between those two institutions? Because I find sometimes they find one would kind of be a little more lenient with certain things and one...
Well, no, there hasn't been a whole lot of correlation between WHO and CDC guidelines throughout this thing. The CDC guidelines tend to be a lot more haphazard. For these the ones I've seen and heard. The WHO, but because the WHO by nature has to take into consideration all of its members. So the CDC sets guidelines only for the United States.
Yeah.
So they would be very focused and they would know, although the United States is very diverse as well, but they kind of understand the setting that the United States functions within. The WHO, when giving overall guidelines, has to bear in mind that they're talking to countries where locking down ain't all that easy, and some, where the other countries that could afford to lock down for maybe
Well, right.
6 months.
But I think in that situation, right, I think we end up on the shitty end of the stick following WHO. And I'm not saying we should follow CDC because obviously if CDC is doing things get to America, that is one thing. Or is it that there should have been an organization specifically for the Caribbean or to deal with Caribbean and Caribbean culture and Caribbean economics? You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I'm sure there's a regional medical body, but they would probably also be an arm of the United Nations, which is what the WHO is. So they would end up following and for smaller nations that don't have the resources to, that's what the WHO, that's what the WHO really serves. The smaller nations who don't have the resources to do their own research and come to their own conclusions with regards to medicines and other, maybe even non-pharmaceutical interventions. The WHO would be the go-to for that.
No, the thing, I'm not saying we totally, not taking what they're saying. I just saying, we could, because, okay, clearly we followed a lot of their guidelines, but a lot of them didn't necessarily work in the best for our country. It might have worked for other countries or people in other situations. So,
but I don't think they ever advised lockdowns, to be fair. I don't think they, and even if they did it for a very short time, because I remember not too far into 2020 seeing representatives of the WHO at meetings and press conferences advising countries to avoid locking down. And, they advise against travel restrictions as well, and people put them in anyway. So we don't have to, as far as I'm aware. I don't think we are bound to follow every single thing that the WHO says, because I think there are some things that they've said that we haven't been following. But I think what the government would say in Trinidad is that when it comes to, especially things like which vaccines are safe and which are not, which drugs to use and which drugs to not use, they would have to depend on the WHO
research,
because we don't have the resources to conduct our own research in that regard. I just think people looking for cover for the decisions, essentially, because, when things don't work out, they can say, it's not me, I follow the WHO, that's the World Health Organization, you know what I mean? And if they were saying it, all I was doing was following what they were saying. So I think there's a little bit of that involved, like with everything with politicians. They're just looking for a shield, you know what I mean? So they go by the WHO guidelines.
Right. Well, let's see how it all unfolds now. This WHO and you don't need to vaccinate or do pressure people to vaccinate to travel.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think I and all had some misunderstanding with it. What's your perspective? What you grasp out of it?
Right. Well, the WHO had, they update their guidelines every now and again. And in a meeting they had a couple weeks ago, they released a bunch of different updates to the guidelines. One of them mentioned the fact that they don't believe that countries should have vax mandates for entry, travel vax mandates, without exemption. That was the thing that they were pointing out. And what I saw a lot of people doing was taking that to mean that the WHO was trying to say that the vaccine mandates aren't necessary, right? Or they don't work. So, and because a lot of people were thinking that this had something to do with the fact that Omicron spreads to unvaccinated people too. Right. So they thought the WHO was actually saying, listen, their mandates and them don't make sense. But that wasn't the reasoning behind what the WHO had said. They said that the country should seek to have at least exemptions that involve testing and quarantine.
Right, quarantine and then test 8 days after.
Right, something like that. Well, they just broadly said, from at least what I read, they just broadly said, you should have some sort of opportunity for people to enter using testing and or quarantine and that kind of thing. Because, and this is the fundamental part I think people are missing, not because they don't think vaccine mandates are necessary or that vaccine mandates work, but because they don't believe that there's equitable distribution of vaccines across the world. So what you would be doing when you're banning certain people from coming to your country, some countries can be disproportionately affected. Now, I think that is a bit of nonsense because Africa is the continent everybody's always pointing to when they talk about the under-vaccinated, right? The ones who can't get access to vaccines. I don't think very many people from who could afford to travel from Africa
can't get a vaccine.
Into especially European countries and places that have these vaccine mandates. I don't think they can't access vaccines. You know what I mean? And the people who are, in the rural areas of Africa who can't get to a health center,
they can't get a health center.
So they're not trying to get into Spain or the United States or Canada. So I don't know how much sense that makes, but that is basically, but that was what the WHO had said. So people were taking it to mean like, this is finally proof from the WHO that even they don't believe vaccine mandates make sense. But it wasn't really that.
All right. Anything else before we wrap it up?
Well, you wanted to touch on one more thing. I think you were interested with the slam. I want to hear. I am interested in hearing what because I know you.
Well,
I want to see where you're going with this.
So the situation for people who don't know,
I think it'll be a lot of people. I didn't.
So the decision slam 100.5 FM was served with a warning letter because on the afternoon drive show apparently they spoke to a prisoner, based on what they say, somebody who was in prison and
an inmate,
and obviously he was saying what he was saying and how he felt about some of the things that are going on in the prison and some of the people, some of the officials of the Trinidad and Tobago prison service.
This was around the time when we had the Speta killing, right?
Yes, this was around the time.
Okay.
So the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago believed that I was a bit reckless. They believe it was dangerous and whatnot.
And it was against the law.
And well,
they felt that it was that the broadcasting house participated in the commission of an offense.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so my take on it, to be very, first of all, you would have to prove to me. Well, I mean, obviously it's just a one letter, so I mean, they didn't find them or try to take their license. But if you wanted to reach that far, you would have to prove to me that person was actually an inmate. Right?
No.
Which,
well, I think that was I think they didn't. I don't know nothing, so you could correct me. Didn't they verify that?
Well, people are trying to say that in the warning they didn't verify that because they make it seem like, well, that is what the person said. Let's say they're talking to an inmate and the person say they're inmate and they say they're on the inside. But my thing is, if you could truly verify that is an inmate,
no, because I don't want to misspeak by calling the announcers names, but I have heard that happen on radio before.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
So, and I've always assumed that it wasn't real. So I thought that they're making a kerfuffle about this because they did the homework and did realize that it wasn't.
Right? No, I think the kerfuffle about this is because of what was going on at the time.
Oh, okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Because they had this list of prison officers that, they claim...
What was in the interview?
Right? So apparently the inmate was saying that they starving them and they mention, the list and whatnot or whatever, right? Now the thing is, they're mainly talking about the shit they're going through, basically, inside it, and the injustices or whatever.
And this person was contacted by the radio station. Is that they didn't call into a program?
That is what I'm not sure of. That is what I'm not sure of.
Okay. Because it said interviewed, as opposed to spoke to.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I'm thinking now this is why I'm thinking all of this was verified. Like they could verify who the inmate was and all of that.
Right. So, exactly. So, and my thing is, then if we could verify, and then my thing is, it's not my work to make sure that them do have cell phone in prison. That's not my work. My work as a media practitioner is to get the news out there, get the information out there. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Obviously, I wouldn't allow somebody to come on air, when I was on air, and threaten the lives of people, right? Or I wouldn't allow, those things happen. But if somebody have a plight or whatever the case may be, because at the end of the day, I don't know how they get it. Suppose is the head of the prison get them cell phone to this, and I say nice with this, right?
And who are you to assume that I know? Because they kept insinuating that they should have known that they don't have. How are you supposed to? I mean, most people don't really know what, prison procedures and rules and regulations are. They hear rumors. You know what I mean? So some people right hear a rumor that you're not supposed to have a cell phone, but this man has called me all the time.
And that's the thing. So when that behavior seems normal, exactly how would these people know that, hey, this is really an issue, And as I said, why pressure me? Pressure them inside it.
And I mean, I could understand that this could have been a teachable moment for the presenter and the studio, the program director could have come and said, listen, hey, hear this now. Can't really be talking to people in jail because they're not supposed to have a cell phone, or at least they're supposed to verify XYZ. And you should come to me before you go on the air with that. Okay, all right. But for Tat to make such a big deal of the issue and try to make, I guess, a public example of the radio station, I found that really, really weird. Really weird.
Yeah, I think it was just a matter. They pretending that they're doing something. I think, hey, this was a serious situation. Look what happened. Hey, boy, let us look like we're doing something. So this is what we're doing, right?
Or somebody might have made a call to them and said, hey, listen, dying looking good.
Right. So Larry, but I don't think they truly deep down in their heart, oh, no, this is, boy, we have to say something here, because, it's a serious thing. It's 3 officers they shoot behind and how much ever died and we go write up something.
But I really hope they verify that it was really an inmate, because if not, then I thought that was the case. I just assumed that, because as I say, I know you knew more about it than me, so I thought you would inform me.
But the thing is, Tad didn't put out that they truly verified it was an inmate. You understand?
Because the amount of times I've heard that happen or purport to happen on the radio.
When I was working in urban radio, there were people who called and said that they were in jail.
Yeah, of course. Yes, I've heard people calling on many occasions and say, yeah, on the inside and so and so, and bigging up this one and that one.
Yeah, and this one from Beva Block thing, and they let place we in what's called the maximum security MSP. Yeah. Ting the MSP team. Yeah, we ting whatever. Play some cartel for we play some whatever. And that has happened to me a few times before. Yeah. So I don't know.
I found that was really, but I guess you're right. It because of the situation that was taking place there, somebody in the prison service got wind of that and say, hey, what kind of wildness is that?
Exactly.
And so now they're gonna act like if somebody at the radio station committed some grave indiscretion.
So the floor is obviously open to the announcers who work the shift. If you want to say,
them probably don't want to talk about that.
You feel so?
Them what I done, and them don't want to rehash.
That was supposed to be like Sonny and Lurb shift, dog. Lurbs is the man who tell Anil about this his wife now.
A minister, yes.
Yeah.
Who told a minister, yeah. And he was the minister at the point in time. He wasn't a former minister. Yeah.
So I think he will not talk about anything. Lurbs, think man, dog. I don't think I have a number again, so if you want to discuss it. Also I want to open the floor to Adrian Schoon as well. He told me that he has going to check out the podcast where we were talking about the situation with him. So the door is open for him to come and obviously he can't talk about everything because his matter is before the court, but I mean what he could
before the court?
Well, they
investigate.
They investigate. It will probably reach before the court.
Investigation. I don't think it's before the court.
Well, alright, yeah. So they'll probably reach before the court.
The people that they charged with the boat wasn't them, right? That was the people the Coast Guard and them.
That's our next thing.
That was a few days after, a week after. Right. Okay.
Right? Yeah. Because I think I sent you the thing with Adrian Schoon, and he has also saying that his boat was never a party boat.
Right. I know. But you know how I keep seeing the headline 65 people from party boat are, and I assumed it was the one right after. But I just said as this came up, let me ask and confirm.
So the thing is, but what I'm saying, he has seen his boat was never a party boat, so
it's a floating restaurant.
All this, no, he has seen it was a pleasure craft before. or some kind of thing like that, right?
Okay.
So you see, so all this party boat talk, all this talking party boat talk all over the place.
Right.
Not a party boat.
Right. It's just a boat people have parties on.
Right.
But people have parties.
They do.
Didn't people have parties on the Ocean Pelican? Is the name now?
Yeah.
Right.
But he's also saying that
I've partied on the Ocean Pelican.
Right. But he is also saying that people have had weddings there and people have had religious ceremonies there and
right, but they've also had parties.
Right?
Right.
So
and they've had parties.
So what he's saying is not a party, it's a venue boat.
It's a boat that people have parties.
It's a venue boat. I guess it's a venue boat.
A party boat.
I think that's the safest way of it.
It is a boat that people have parties on. I say,
but you see, I think it will be being a bit unfair if you say it's a boat that people have parties on without saying it's a boat that people have parties on, people have religious ceremonies on, people have
people have religious ceremonies on
boats, yeah,
on the Ocean Pelican. No, what religious ceremony have they had on the Ocean Pelican?
I don't know. That's what he said in the Facebook thing, right? Right. But I've heard of religious things on the First Lady when the First Lady was on.
I have a church having a fundraiser on your boat.
No.
It's not a
I talking about
religious. And having a wedding ceremony is not having a religious. A wedding reception on a boat is
but the thing is, I'm pretty sure they have had ceremonies on the Pelican.
Yeah, but they then went on to have a party,
right? But that's a religious aspect of it.
Right. Well,
so but the First Lady though, I know of people who actually go and they go down the islands in the sea to do their prayers, and they use the boat for that, and they singing the hymns and whatnot while on the boat when it had the First Lady going across.
Okay.
So,
all right, brother.
You understand? So it's a boat venue, a venue boat. I don't know. Just one more topic, boy, before we go. Did I send you the thing with the Joe Rogan and Spotify thing?
With Neil Young?
Yeah.
No, he didn't send it to me. But
serious?
No.
Wait, but I thought I'd send it. So, Neil Young is saying that...
was saying,
right, that he wouldn't allow Spotify to keep his music there while people like Joe Rogan is there spreading misinformation and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm. And I don't know, he really thought... Or I think he was hoping to drum up some more support.
I don't. Well, what people have said is that he has had a beef with Spotify for quite some time because there's been he's had a problem with the split of royalties, and he and Spotify have kind of had a back and forth for some time, which is this is the understanding I've gained. So I think this was just another opportunity to take a dig at Spotify. Maybe he's almost at his wit's end with respect to the beef he having with. So in his mind, he put off my music at this stage. I don't care, but I could get to look all virtuous by tying it to Joe Rogan in a kind of a way. I don't think he was really. I mean, Neil Young, he sold I think half of his catalog for £150 million, I think, right? Mm-hmm. So he might be a nobody to me and you, but you know, his music does have value, because if somebody paying $150 million for half of the catalog, then, you know, he had to be an artist of some repute. But I don't even think he was necessarily thinking that Spotify would have said, no, we'll side with you and take Joe Rogan off. I just think he wanted to morally grandstand. And if he didn't mind too much if Spotify had taken up the offer and said...
What certain people are saying is that he might have also been trying to take that stand, hoping that other artists take the stand as well and stand with him. Mm-hmm. You know,
I don't even know if he was really trying to. The things I've heard him say in the past, I don't even know if he was necessarily trying to start a crusade. I just think he's an old artist that likes to be relevant and wants to be relevant and knows the things to virtue signal about, the things to.
Because I thought that if I don't really know of you, I think I know the name. And as I say, his music probably has value to somebody. But are those people Spotify listeners, or are those people heavy?
Yeah. Well, Spotify has his music on the.
Well, yeah, but what's in compared to the 11 million downloads a month for Joe Rogan.
No, I'm not saying it passes Joe Rogan.
No, what I'm saying. So, for me, this was my thought process. Are you relevant enough? Or, as you say, which obviously is a different perspective, right? My thought was, are you relevant enough to
get Joe Rogan? Yeah. I think if he wanted support, I don't think he really wants to get Joe Rogan off of Spotify.
So that's it. So,
and I think if he wanted support, he would have said something like that. Like, I am going to take it, and I invite all of the artists and kind of, you can even pressure people, bully people into doing it. If you care about your fans and whether your fans are safe and healthy, then you should take a stand too. But he didn't say any of that. I just think he was just morally grandstanding. He had a beef with Spotify, and he gets a chance to pick a bone with Spotify as well as look like a hero. Look like, I'm standing up for, the science or whatever. I don't know.
And yeah, boy, dog, boy. Well, bye-bye to your music, boy, dog, boy. Okay, I'm going to Spotify and look for it again to see if I know you. Yeah, boy, dog, boy.
Yeah. I just think he's an old man looking for relevance, and so that's a sad thing. I think to see people behave like that in their old age.
But plenty when they get older, they just get miserable and just get weird.
Yeah, you can get miserable and thing with your. What I don't like to see is them taking on personas that they didn't. Because I don't know him as I know of his music. I know of him as an artist, but I can't say I was not wrong when he was in his prime to know how he was, what his personality was. But you see, when people kind of have their whole career as artists and then they become crusaders in their old age, they be real, dog. So you've lived your entire life not really caring about social justice, and you reach this age now and all of a sudden you're a crusader. No, you're just fighting for relevance. You want to, that's what the young crowd, look, you want to get interviewed on TV.
And then probably, people advising him as well. Well, boy, if you want to see if your name could jump out, you have to,
because he's been doing interviews since, so, and people, you and I are talking about him, and there's no context, that I could conjure in my mind that would have ever gotten us to
even
speak
if he
about.
We still exactly spoken about him.
Exactly. Right now, I know we are two people in Trinidad and Tobago, very far from him. So, I just think he was looking for relevance.
And boy, I know your music now on Spotify, so you can't even say, well, boy, we're going to do some research and listen to music.
You can go on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can go on YouTube. Go play it. You find him on music.
Hey, before we wrap up, I have a real funny one, boy. Andrew Schultz, it was a funny joke in one of his podcasts the other day. And not funny, it wasn't funny. It wasn't real funny, but I was just like, haha. That's good. You remember the Bacchanal? Well, I don't know if you saw the Bacchanal where Kanye was saying that Kim and him they were having one of the children's birthday parties. And
Travis Scott had to invite him.
Yeah. Andrew Schultz, he said probably the party was at capacity now, boy. And that was just capacity, and Travis Scott being...
he
invited him
to come and stampede. To bum rush the stage.
To storm.
To bum rush the stage. All right. I see it. But that's why I don't watch Andrew Schultz on the podcast.
I find that because is it too soon for you to make that kind of joke,
Well, I know them fellas like to toe the line, so not toe the line, like to walk on the line. So I guess they would think that's okay.
I think that's wild. I don't know where I Kanye, but Kanye Bridgen, I don't know why.
Kanye's successful though. Kanye having the best time of his life. Where is he? I mean, I wouldn't. I was about to say I would like to be Kanye. I wouldn't like to be anybody but himself. But but Kanye,
I don't know. I find he's acting like the Kim and Pete Davidson thing. Can he be better of him?
But I mean, he's man with $6.6 billion. If you man want to take on a Tabanka, well, let him take on a Tabanka. I don't know. And this Jennifer Fox girl,
I think it's one thing to take on a Tabanka and to be hurt, But you see when they start to act like you're behaving a little crazy.
Yeah, but Kanye's been acting crazy for the past 20 years. So this is just a different reason for him to act crazy. So let him not act like, this is causing some real crazy behavior from Kanye West. No, it's Kanye West. He's been, I think that, I think there's something wrong with him mentally. I want to say wrong with him. Well, it may actually be right for him, because I think it also contributes to the personality and the work that he does. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's kind of make you act crazy now and again, but it is probably the reason why he is as good as he is at what he does. But I don't think he's altogether up here. I don't think he's playing on the same field that all of us play on. So I feel the man living his life, and I think, especially in the past couple of years, I think Kanye has been having some of the best years of his career as a musician, and financially he's been having a ball.
Yeah, man. And one of his songs on the Donda album, he said he could afford to give everybody $1 million away.
Well, I don't think he reached there yet. I think the last valuation I saw was 6.6 billion, and it's close to 8 billion people on the planet. But I get the point. I get the point he's making.
Right. So.
You saw the Drink Champs interview where he was saying that he was talking to, I think, his wife, Jay-Z, and somebody else. And when they started to spaz out on him or something in the conversation, he had to pause and say, hey, I would, or more than everybody on this call combined, or in this group chat. I think it was a group chat or something. He said, I would more than everybody in this group chat combined, so I had to calm down. What the what does make a man say them kind of thing?
You know who say something like that? Zoom. That's somebody like Zoom.
That's 100% accurate. Yes, he would say that. He would probably. I don't think he would say it to them though.
Yeah.
He would probably say it to people afterwards. Like, I didn't want to take on them fellas. I would more. But Kanye said it to them. And he said he apologized after or something like that, but it's like, hey, wow, that's a different level of cockiness thing. So, I mean, the man living his life, dog. So, and this, I don't know what's the big hype about her. I think she looked good in Uncut Gems, the movie. But every time I saw her after that, she looked a little bit weird to me. But everybody seems to like this. Is Jennifer Fox is her name?
Something Fox, yeah.
Yeah. Everybody seems to find she's a big deal. So the man moving on, apparently. So, what you gonna say? I glad for the man.
Hey, and we want to have them kind of relationship topics. I don't know if you're into.
I into anything, but not at this stage. Maybe next time when we know we're going into that.
All right. Cool. So, that's where we wrap it up for today. Remember, of course, check us out on YouTube and any one of your podcasting platforms. I would suggest Spotify,
Apple Podcasts,
Google Podcasts,
right.
Pocket Cast. There's so many of them, right? So you search in the app 868. If you go on YouTube and you search, you have to search the app 868, hit search and look for it, because YouTube, as I say, kind of bullying us a little bit.
The overlords ain't like what we're saying. So
and what I do is, and I'll just give you a quick rundown so you'd have an idea. What I do is, after I upload an episode, I always go to our next YouTube profile and go and search for the episode, make sure it's up and make sure it's playing, make sure everything is everything, right? And what I've realized is happening now is that every time I search, it no longer autofills. You have to actually go and click search. So
no, but to be fair though, I think I've started to see that happen with a number of different social media platforms. And and I don't think the things I'm searching for are being censored. I'm wondering if it's something where when you just do it so many times, it stops autofilling after a while.
Nah, right. Because the thing is, so for the people who don't know, I actually manage four YouTube channels. Yeah. So, and I upload on all of them. I go through this process.
Okay, all right.
Weekly.
All right. I was trying to get, what's your name? Susan Wojcicki apply? But no, clearly, if that's the case, then she fighting me.
Yeah, this is the only channel that does that. Like, the Mr. and Mrs. Because as I type MR, you see it. You understand?
So, Susan, stop doing that. Stop doing that.
You have line now, boy. You have line.
Let me live.
So, thanks again for listening, and looking to get out of here.
Yeah, see you next time.